every so often I watch a movie, the credits start to roll, and I'm licking all the Cheeto dust off my fingers, and I'm just like, huh.
As you may have guessed from my channel, I love movies, and I write and talk about a lot of different kinds of movies. I'll discuss everything from the most mainstream blockbusters like Toy Story 5 to smaller movies like Night Nurse. But obviously, I can't review these movies the same way. Toy Story 5 is an animated comedy about toys trying to help a child, and Night Nurse is an erotic thriller about nurses working with an elderly man to scam old people. These movies have different themes, tones, styles, and production mediums. Thus, I would judge them by different metrics. Some movie reviewers on YouTube tend to cover a limited range of movies. Alex Meyers is one such YouTuber. Looking through his videos, he seems to mostly cover cartoons, rom-coms, and teen sitcoms, and that's fine. I mean, we all have our favorite genres that we may feel we're more adept at talking about than others. And given that Alex uses a cartoon avatar in his reviews, it's not too surprising that he wants to talk about cartoons. But then he reviewed some movies outside of his wheelhouse, movies that are supernatural horror films and erotic dramas. Not exactly the type of movies I'd expect somebody like this to review based on his past videos, but hey, if he's willing to step outside of his comfort zone and expand his media diet, this could be a good thing. Before I cover his attempt to boldly go where his cartoon avatar hasn't gone before, let's get a lay of the land so I know what I'm in store for. Let's look at his review of Zootopia 2, an animated movie that I really enjoyed, but I think Alex disagrees considering his review was titled, "Enjoy Your Disney Slop." I got a bad feeling about this.
Zootopia. I still maintain this is one of the best Disney movies they've ever made, okay? It's not just nostalgia talking, because I watched it again just a few months ago for a video. Like, even if Judy Hopps wasn't the girl of my dreams, I still think this movie's incredible. So I was very tentatively interested in the sequel. The trailer made it look really dumb, but then the movie came out. It was the highest grossing animated movie of all time, has nearly perfect scores. Oh my goodness, they did it again! And then I watched it, and all of this is very confusing to me. Did we all see the same movie?
Okay, we got some disagreement with the consensus, which is perfectly fine. Let's hear him out and see what Michael Myers has to say about this movie.
Nick is now a cop, as per the last movie, and he and Judy are partners in justice. But are they partners in life? Well, that's a good question, because the movie also clearly has no idea.
I mean, do you know you're in a serious relationship after only a week of knowing somebody?
So in the first movie, the entire shtick is that no one takes Judy seriously because of her insane hip-to-waist ratio, but also she's a prey animal, and a bunny specifically. She overcompensates a lot, which is one of the core themes of the entire movie. But then they save the world or whatever, and here we are 1 week later, they're just still the underdogs. Judy is still trying to prove herself. Aren't you glad you waited almost 10 years for this?
Again, it's only been a week since Judy solved her first case. How fast do you think promotions work in law enforcement?
Anyway, so Nick and Judy have snuck off to handle this criminal guy on their own.
Fox and Bunny? Okay.
Oh, my dude, you think that's weird. Just wait till you get to the JFK part.
Okay, I know you're trying to throw some jokes into the commentary, but I don't know, these are kind of weak. The fast-paced delivery doesn't make them any better.
So just to summarize here, their plan kind of works, but it kind of doesn't, and this dude catches on to what they're doing, and they have to chase after him.
My hog rod! This is a snout rage!
Yes, a snout rage. You know, it's crazy how Disney replaced all their comedy writers with popsicle sticks and Laffy Taffy rappers.
As opposed to the comedy gold of referencing JFK. Also, it's a silly pun for a throwaway gag in a family animated comedy. Calm down, dude.
Now, I'll be talking more about this later, but if you enjoy pointless chase scenes, then this movie was made for you, because at least 60% of the runtime is just that, over and over again.
Dude, the opening chase scene is anything but pointless. The chase is meant to illustrate that Judy and Nick are still trying to prove themselves. And even with their initiative to catch criminals, they still end up causing a lot of collateral damage, which, would be a good reason for them not to be promoted so quickly. And also, the chase directly leads to Judy finding the reptile scale that launches the film's central investigation, which you should know since you pointed out in the video.
But so here's where Judy and Nick kind of have a divide in their life philosophies. Judy wants to reprove to everyone that she can be relied upon, so she starts digging into what's up with this reptile skin. But Nick just wants to lay low, do the bare minimum until the punishment blows over, don't ruffle any feathers, you get the idea.
Sorry, Paul.
Okay, I'm sorry. I can't just, I gotta say something here.
Wait, why are we talking about the jokes now? Weren't we just discussing the conflict between Judy and Nick? Did you just see the slapstick gag and change course immediately? Oh, okay, you know what? Fine. Tell me about the jokes and why you don't like them.
The jokes in this movie are so freaking stupid. Like they're not even jokes. It's just like, okay, so almost every joke can be put into two categories. One is where like someone will just quote a movie randomly for no reason. You know those YouTube videos where like the joke is just them playing a meme video or like a movie clip of someone who just says the same thing they just said? I said a sentence and Jerry Seinfeld said the same sentence. And like that's the entire joke. And the second category of joke in this movie is like the most Minions level slapstick. Now, of course, the first movie also has some slapstick, and it also has like a big Godfather reference, but the second movie just does all of this 5 times more than they should.
Okay, I think it's really reductive to write off all the jokes in Zootopia 2 as either movie quotes or Minions-level slapstick. This type of categorization completely dismisses the many visual gags of Zootopia, which are still pretty clever. And I mean, were there really that many movie quotes in Zootopia 2? I can recall many movie references in the visuals to films like Ratatouille and The Shining, but not as many quotes. Also, what about the slapstick places it on the same level as Minions? I always looked at Minions as just, filler slapstick that doesn't add much more beyond some simplistic laughs. The examples that Alaxative brings up involve Zootopia's IT expert Paul. Again, this isn't random slapstick. It's building up this world. We first witness Paul being accidentally injured by a soda that explodes. This illustrates that Paul is relatively easy to remove from his desk. This is established so that later, when Clawhauser has to stop the IT expert to save Nick and Judy, he has options. And he uses donuts. And it's pretty funny. I don't know why ExxonMobil had to establish such an odd categorization of comedy when his biggest issue seems to be the volume of the gags that didn't work for him. Which is fine. I mean, comedy is relative. You laugh or you don't. It's just a very weird way that he's written off so much of the movie's clever comedy in this manner.
Anyway, so Judy's feeling down on herself because she did a oopsie, and she's setting bunnies back 20 years. So she goes back to her sad little dorm and eats her sad little dinner and talks to her sad little parents.
There's nothing wrong with dying a little inside so you can meet in the middle.
Okay, see, now that's a good joke. More of that, please. But alas, we were all deceived, for there were no other good jokes.
Really? None? No other good jokes after this cynical one about settling? Nothing else? Just the one? Well, okay, I guess the comedy didn't work for you. Fair enough. Kind of sad, though.
So at this gala, they're celebrating the Linksley family, who are descended from the founder of Zootopia. And most of them are pretty hoity-toity aristocrats, except this one guy that Judy meets, named Pawbert.
I just mopped a spill with that guy's tail, so... Paw!
Okay, so a lot of you probably already know what I'm gonna say, but I gotta say it anyway.
Do I want to know what you're going to say? Honestly, when somebody says a movie is like Subway Surfers TikToks, it sounds like the statement of somebody who has spent way, way too much time online. But I'm in too deep now, so just say what you're gonna say.
Now, I've brought this up before in several other videos, like Elio, Wish, Moana 2, where this problem becomes much more apparent when you go back and watch older Disney movies, like Tangled, Frozen, Zootopia 1 even. The characters just move so much. They never stop moving. Now, obviously, in this particular scene, the characters are nervous and they're fidgeting and all that, but this is pretty much just how everyone moves all the time. Zootopia 2 in particular is so egregious with this problem.
My dude, this is a Disney animated movie. They're kinda known for characters with exaggerated movements and performances. Also, it seems like you chose the worst example to bring up this issue with. Judy is working undercover and Pawbert Linksley is awkward at this event. Their movement makes sense for their characters and reveals aspects of their personality. Every movement in an animated film this expensive is deliberate. They're not just moving for the sake of moving to seem alive.
The thing is, like, in a vacuum, well, I would still think it's too much, actually. But we now live in a world where K-pop Demon Hunters came out and is like the biggest thing of all time, right? And compared to Zootopia 2, K-pop Demon Hunters has like 1/10 the animation. Like, in a good way, I mean. Modern Disney movies have just become like jingling keys for kids. Actually, no, it's not even jingling keys at this point, because like between how the characters move, having some dumb unrelated joke every 5 seconds, and then over half the movie is chase scene, explosion, car crash, bonk. It's like an hour and 40 minutes of Subway Surfers TikToks, you know what I'm saying? Like, this movie is jingling keys, a slide whistle, and a bop it going at the same time.
It's just overlapping action in the animation. And why are you comparing it to K-pop Demon Hunters? They have vastly different animation styles. Zootopia 2 uses the typical 24 frames animation with motion blur, while K-pop Demon Hunters uses Sony's preferred 12 to 24 frame method with very little, if no, motion blur, given its, choppy effect. They're very different, and that's fine. Not every animated film has to adopt the same production process as Into the Spider-Verse. You can have variation. If you don't like the jokes, fine, but acting like the chases serve no purpose beyond mindless action doesn't hold up if you're actually paying attention to the movie. If all this action seems like too much for you and you're writing off all this lively animation as Subway Surfers TikToks, that tells me you have a hard time following animated movies. And also that you likely spend way too much time online for making such references.
Even just like later on at the same gala part, like a snake does indeed appear and tries to steal the book. But Judy and Nick chase him down into some kind of room, whatever this is. And long story short, they get framed. And everyone thinks that they are working with the snake because they're not supposed to even be here. And so why would they sneak in unless they were doing something nefarious?
What did you do? No, we're helping the snake.
Like I was saying, everything just happens so fast in this movie. It's like there has to be something every 5 seconds or else what, the kid's gonna swipe away from the movie theater?
This is a chaotic situation that establishes Judy and Nick becoming fugitives and having to help Gary, a wrongfully accused snake. I'm sorry, is this movie really that hard to follow? Is this really too much happening at once? It's very bizarre that Alex Sightbike says the movie is trying too hard to hold the audience's attention by making something happen every few seconds, but is he even paying attention to the movie? Because I'm over 8 minutes deep into this video, and all he's done so far is complain about the animation being too much and the jokes not being funny enough, while cracking terrible jokes of his own. I haven't even heard him talk about the story, which is a big deal considering the entire point of the animation and events is to move the story along.
Now I know what you're thinking, okay? You're thinking, Alex, shut up. Your videos have lots of cutaway gags and explosion jokes. Yes, this is a 20-minute YouTube video and not an hour and 40-minute feature film. Okay, the rules are different.
Yes, they are different. For example, the staff behind Zootopia 2 put far more thought and effort into their storytelling and animation than you did for this video. And sure, these are different types of productions, but I don't know. I think YouTube videos are capable of far better jokes than...
Watch my six.
Watch your six. Judy, trust me, way ahead of you on that one. So now Nick and Judy are on the run from the Fuzz. The snake guy got away, but Judy has the book still. They get picked up by our old pals at the Shrew Mafia, who are gonna help them disappear and start new lives or something like that.
Kiss the stinking ring right now. Kiss it.
Oh, sorry. Also, the third category of joke in this movie is that people just get mad all the time. Person gets mad. Ha 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 ha.
Why do they get mad? Is there a reason they get mad? Do you think there's a reason why Mr. Big gets offended over his granddaughter not being respected enough? Do you think there's a reason why Bellwether is so bitter that she has grown violent in court? Again, all this shit can be explained if you consider the context of the movie, which you haven't done, which is pretty weird because the vast majority of this review is just a recap of the movie, and a very poor recap at that.
They team up with a reptile conspiracy podcaster lady who knows everything about reptiles, I guess. I do appreciate that they made the beaver a girl. That's just peak comedy right there. Anyway, so the beaver, who's named Nibbles, which is not how any characters have been named up to now. Judy the bunny. Nick the fox. Nibbles the beaver? What is this, Paw Patrol?
Isn't Judy's last name Hops? Like how rabbits hop? Are you seriously going to get hung up on a beaver called Nibbles?
But whatever, Nibbles tells them that there's a small population of reptiles who live in this place called Marsh Market, which is some ways outside of Zootopia. She can't just introduce this part of the town and maybe have 1 or 2 jokes here and there. Like every 5 seconds, something has to happen.
We need her.
Oh, yeah. Like a hole in the head. Bad timing.
Again, see, this is what I'm talking about. What is the joke? He gets mad and then ha 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 ha?
Do you need to have this very simple joke explained to you? Okay, fine. Nick jokes that they need nibbles like he needs a hole in the head. A common phrase meaning something is undesirable. A nearby dolphin with a blowhole gets offended for having a hole in his head. That's the joke. A dolphin got offended that Nick made a derogatory statement about animals with holes in their heads. And even if you don't like the joke. Its inclusion still serves a purpose. It's world building. It's meant to establish that Nick is venturing into dangerous territory that societally he doesn't know how to navigate, thus stressing why he needs Nibbles as a guide. Like, come on, is this movie really that hard to decipher? Am I like fucking Werner Herzog compared to YouTubers like this when it comes to reading very basic shit in Disney animated movies?
Now, I know the common argument against what I've been saying is like, Alex, chill out. It's a kid's movie. Of course it's gonna have dumb jokes. What did you expect? Like, in a vacuum? Sure, you're probably right. But when you go back and watch the first movie, like, the jokes are funnier, the movie does not insult your intelligence or your attention span at all. Like, surprisingly, it's kind of a mature movie. But then the sequel is just like this.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey.
Hey, bub. Hey.
Bub, 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 bub.
Bub, 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 bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey, bub, bub.
Hey, bub. Bubby, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey, bub. Hey, ho.
Hey, bub, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub.
Hey, bub. Hey.
Hey, bub. Hey.
Bub, 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 bub.
Bub, 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 bub.
Hey, bub. Cine Zeus.
Yup.
And like, you know, the skibbity toilet crowd's going crazy right now.
Get offline. The internet has broken your brain, and you need to get offline if silly shit like this is what gets you all riled up to compare it to Skibbity Toilet. And also, I seriously don't think this movie is insulting your intelligence. I think its story is actually far better than the first movie. But you haven't brought that up yet. But thankfully, he does get to the story in the next section. Minion story Fuck, this is gonna be bad, isn't it?
When I said that the first movie is surprisingly mature, part of what I mean is that the plot is very logical in that, like, this happens, therefore this happens, which causes this to happen, and then that ties back into this thing. Zootopia 2, however, runs like on friggin' Cocomelon logic.
Get offline.
The snake's fanny pack just so happens to get caught on something. It has a matchbox in it that just happens to be from a secret snake hideout that just happens to be located right where they accidentally shot out of the water pipe. Wow, isn't that something?
Okay, I seriously don't think Alextra Extra is watching the movie at this point. Gary's fanny pack was ripped off during the chase as he fled from authorities. The fanny pack contains the matchbox because it's from Gary's hideout. And the hideout, yes, is located in a random part of the wilderness, because that's how hideouts work. And also, I think it's more exciting that the discovery of the hideout happens this way. In my opinion, it would not be as exciting if Nick and Judy exited the water tube with no evidence, returned to a nearby city, did some more investigating, discovered the exact location of Gary's hideout, and then trekked all the way back into the wilderness to find the location. It happens quickly because it's more entertaining and doesn't slow down the film's investigative plot amid Nick and Judy's conflicting societal perceptions.
The lynxes are killers, and they have no honor. Territorial animals will do anything for more land.
But like, this kind of flies in the face of the entire point of the first movie. Like, one of the first things in that movie is they tell us that animals have overcome and tossed away their instincts, and this is why now they get to do all the cool, fun, grown-up stuff, like doing laundry again, even though you just did it 2 days ago. Or like the really pivotal scene when Judy sees that the fox kid grew up to be like a peaceful gardener, you know what I mean? But then the entire plot of the second movie hinges on this idea that lynxes are territorial animals by nature, and that's why they screwed over the reptiles. Isn't the entire point of this world that they don't live by instinct anymore? And it makes them such corny villains too, because like Bellwether's motivation was directly tied to the socioeconomic system of Zootopia itself. But then the Lynxleys are doing this because that's just what lynxes do, I guess.
No, Alex Meyers. The Lynxleys are not taking over territory because it's their instincts. It's because they're greedy and discriminatory. This should be self-explanatory, but it's not an animal instinct for lynxes to claim ownership of patents and frame a species for murder so they can exile them. That's something that humans do, which is kind of the point in the movie. Like, sure, Zootopia is free of the barbaric predator-prey dynamic, but now they have to grapple with a more domesticated world where corruption, bigotry, and cultural erasure exists. The entire reason the Lynxleys try to stop Gary is not that they want to claim land, but because they want to protect their ill-gotten wealth.
I think maybe we are different.
Well, hey, Judy, listen, I'm not different. We're not different at all, okay? We can make anything work, whatever you want.
That's all you got? Judy somberly admits that she and Nick don't share the same view on changing their society, and you've got a shitty joke about how horny you are for her? This is your commentary?
For a Disney movie mostly aimed at kids, like Zootopia 1 is incredibly dark and mature, but Zootopia 2, that all just went way out the window. Like in watching this movie, we ourselves learn almost nothing about reptiles. Gary's the only reptile we really meet, and he's barely even in the movie. He's just this like one-dimensional, happy little snake boy who loves giving hugs. And then there's like the speakeasy part, and that's it. This movie's supposed to be about reptiles, but they're barely even in it. The movie's more about Judy thinking about reptiles. Like, it's like she's an 8-year-old kid who's like, I like dinosaurs.
The reptiles were driven out of Zootopia. That's why you don't see much of them. That's why they're in hiding. Also, I don't know why you thought Gary was just a happy snake. It's clear throughout the film that he's desperate, scared, and highly emotional about restoring what was stolen from his culture. There's more to his character than just liking hugs, considering his entire purpose in the story.
Like, for example, if at the end of Act 1, Judy and Nick got separated, and then all of Act 2, Judy was with Gary, and so then she, along with us, the audience, gets to like spend time with him, learn about him and his family, and the reptiles, and all that kind of stuff. So then we become very invested in getting him his justice, you know what I mean? But the way the movie is now, like, it just tells us that we should care about reptiles.
The movie reveals that the reptiles were driven out of their homes and had their accomplishments stolen by a greedy family. That's not enough for you to care about Gary's plight?
This villain twist is so pointlessly stupid. Like, am I supposed to care about this character who's barely been in the movie until now? The same with Gary, where it's like, they're very, very briefly introduced to us near the beginning of the movie, and then we basically never see them again until like the very end of Act 2. And then 15 minutes later, it's like, huzzah, I am the bad guy.
You can be different than your family.
I don't want to be different.
Like, my dude, I don't even know you. We don't know anything about this guy. He has no real connection to Nick or Judy until literally right now, so...
Paubert is meant to represent a divergence from a dark history of a corrupt family. That seemed obvious from his demeanor in his introduction and why he's willing to help Gary. When Paubert says he doesn't want to be different, it's not tragic because this is some well-known friend of Judy's that has betrayed her. It's tragic because Paubert doesn't accept that the world can change and that he needs to maintain his family's power rather than fight against it. It's the only way he thinks he can be accepted, by essentially accepting the status quo. It is Nick's cynical worldview proven right, and it's heartbreaking to Judy.
Judy is poisoned with snake venom and Gary is thrown out into the snow, but they end up overcoming everything thanks to Nick, who breaks out of prison with the help of Nibbles, who is also there for some reason. And by that, I quite literally mean just for some reason.
Point.
How are you even here?
Destiny. Plus an arrest.
Wow, what a crazy coincidence. Over 90% Rotten Tomatoes, everybody.
No, Nibbles wasn't there for just some reason. She's there because she was arrested, which she stated in the clip you just showed. Also, the last time we see Nibbles before this scene was when she was helping Nick and Judy escape from police custody. It seems very likely that she was arrested for aiding a fugitive's escape. So no, it's not a coincidence. It makes sense if you're actually watching the movie.
But all the same, they defeat Paubert, they find the old reptile city, find the patent. Paubert comes back again for 4 seconds, but then, bonk.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Please shut up.
Say, Alex Luthor, who do you think Zootopia 2 is intended for? Do you think the bulk of the audience for this movie, which debuted on Thanksgiving weekend, was families? Because kids like slapstick. It's funny, and all the more so when it contributes to a movie's story, as when the cops finally apprehend Paubert. Adults will often laugh at pop culture references, all the more so if they fit the story. Sure, the pigs are referencing the classic movie Babe, but they are also speaking genuinely about a job well done and standing down. You don't have to find these jokes funny, but I do find it pretty rich that you misread so much shit in this movie and choose to get aggravated over this stuff.
And so once again, racism has been cured forever. The snakes move into Zootopia and everything is fine like a week after they already cured racism. Incredible, these kids.
The first Zootopia movie was about disproving an acceptance of stereotypes. The second Zootopia movie was about undoing the damage of a culture demonized and robbed by greedy forces that rewrite history. So not exactly the same plot of curing racism.
Also, like a little bit before the ending, we finally get Nick and Judy to kind of be honest about their various feelings. And of course, it's all played off as a half joke, because heaven forbid the movie slows down and has any semblance of maturity or weight to anything. Like in the first movie, the entire beginning of Act 3 is Judy hanging up her badge, she goes back home, like we see her hit her lowest point and then crawl back up when she goes to apologize to Nick. But now in the second movie, it's like all character development is just played off as like a really quick joke.
Did you entirely forget the low point in the movie where Nick and Judy admit that they have different views of the world and how they can make a difference in it? The rapid-fire admission of their problems isn't just played off as a joke, it's meant to showcase how honest they're willing to be after having been closed off for so long as partners. Their entire arc is about learning to be a good duo beyond just solving another case, which means being more open and vulnerable with their feelings. Which they did.
Okay, so to be fair, if this had just been its own standalone movie, like not Zootopia 2, but just like its own thing, you know, I probably would have just been like, okay, well, it's a kid's movie. But the fact that the first movie exists just really highlights how incredibly bad this movie is. I mean, like, it's not some kind of unwatchable mess or anything, but as the sequel to one of Disney's best movies ever, like, this is just like, how did they miss the mark this bad? It's like those late 90s, early 2000s direct-to-DVD sequels. It's like on that level, but it has like 6 times more animation than it should. Now, the Rotten Tomato scores in the 90s, but when you look at the actual review scores themselves, like on Metacritic, it paints a picture that is maybe more in line with how I feel about it. This movie is just everything that is modern Disney. Put up a bunch of slop for the TikTok brain rot kids, and then maybe we can sell a bunch of EpiPen toys.
Okay, well, that was horrible. Now, I've watched a handful of cartoon reviewers miss so much when it comes to reviewing animated movies. But this was pretty bad for tackling a Disney movie. He barely talks about the story, doesn't address the greater allegory, doesn't comment on the world building, skims review scores instead of actually reading reviews that might back up his points, and gives a really piss-poor conclusion by declaring the movie as slop. Okay, so I'm not exactly dealing with somebody who has the best grasp of reviewing cartoons. So brace yourselves as Alexo Jr. now reviews Luca Guadagnino's Challengers.
You know, I've made a lot of videos over the last 6 years or so, and like if you've ever actually watched them and not just look at the thumbnails like some people do, you'd know that for most movies I come away with just being like, that was fine, I guess. Because, you know, most movies are just fine. Sometimes you get some real magic though, okay? You got 50 Shades, Twilight, the after movies. But every so often I watch a movie, the credits start to roll, and I'm licking all the Cheeto dust off my fingers, and I'm just like, huh. That's how Challengers was for me. I don't even know if I liked it or not, but it just made me sit there for a while and go, huh.
Okay, not the most promising sign to open a movie review by saying you're not sure what you thought of it, but who knows, maybe he'll figure out where he stands as he progresses through the video.
Now here's the thing, Art has not been doing really well lately, so Tashi decides to put him in a lower stakes Challengers game to help him get his confidence back, and more importantly, keep him playing tennis, because Tashi literally has no other hobbies whatsoever. Yeah, you can be happy, or you can do what I want. Oh, what's that? We have a daughter, and we could just like take care of her together and be content in life? Not on my watch!
Yeah, that's the point. Tashi cares more about tennis than family, and she knows she can manipulate Art into playing tennis continuously. Thank you for stating the obvious without making much of a joke.
Now, at this low-stakes Challengers game, the final match comes down to Art versus this guy, Patrick, and neither one of them is too happy about this. And so this is where the movie starts to kind of shift back and forth in time, which it does in a very confusing way. It's like 13 years ago, and then 12 years ago, and then like 8 years ago. The characters have slightly different hair and like facial situations going on, but sometimes it's like, oh, we're back in modern day now. Oh, okay, whoops.
I really don't think it's that confusing considering how the movie is staged. There are titles indicating how far back in time the movie goes, and it's pretty obvious when the story shifts to the modern day, given how long the film establishes the present. This isn't a jumbled, non-linear edit akin to 21 grams, but as I've already seen with his review of Zootopia 2, Alex Meyers Briggs doesn't really pay attention to movies that much.
Anyway, right, so 13 years ago, Art and Patrick were the best friends. Patrick was some kind of rich kid going to this tennis academy thing, and Art looks like Walmart brand Ross Lynch. And this is where they first see Tashi. Fire truck. Yeah, I think this is one of those things you should probably keep to yourself.
Oh, buddy, you are going to have a really hard time getting through this movie if you're not willing to engage with how horny it gets.
So anyway, Art and Patrick are both really into Tashi. I mean, I get it, you know, she's gorgeous, she's got an Adidas sponsorship, she used to be a super spy. Come on, leave some for the rest of us, would you?
Patrick Spy? Art Donaldson.
I know who you are. Which one's which?
What do you think?
Yeah, to be fair, this is about as awkward as my flirting was in high school, too. Oh, hey, I see you're drinking water. Yeah, I've been known to dabble in that myself from time to time. You don't say.
Not even remotely the same level of awkwardness, considering that Tashi knows these guys and is interested in them as tennis players, which is established in the scene you just showed.
Now, somehow, despite all of this, Tashi does entertain their company for a while, and they get to talking about how Tashi wants to go to college even though she could totally go pro. Patrick is going to try and go pro, but lucky coincidence, Tashi and Art are going to Stanford together, because of course they are.
For about 15 seconds there, we were actually playing tennis. We understood each other completely. So did everyone watching. It's like we were in love, or like we didn't exist.
I think that maybe they're going to use tennis as a metaphor in this movie. I'm not quite sure yet, but I guess we'll find out.
That's the joke.
We're in room 206.
Want me to come tuck you in?
Heck yeah! And don't forget to read A Hungry Caterpillar, okay?
I'd like to take some time away from this deeply awkward moment of a joke to remind everybody that this guy is nearly 40.
So they get to talking about all kinds of random stuff like relationships and girls and this.
And you, why aren't you pretending not to have a girlfriend?
Art's in between ladies.
Oh, no, that makes it sound like I'm some sort
player.
of... Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Art does fine for himself. I mean, look at him.
Really? And the conversation kind of starts to get a little something.
What about the two of you?
What do you mean? Oh, no. One time, when we were 12...
No, stop. No, we don't have to. You can just, nobody has to.
Come on, dude. The movie is clearly establishing that there are gay feelings between Art and Patrick that have been present for a long time, which is what Tashi observes after they divulge their history of sex around each other.
I mean, he did it on his bed.
Okay.
I did it on my bed. We did it together, but like on opposite sides of the room.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Is that it? You don't have a horny or juvenile joke to put on top of this pregnant pause in the conversation? Are you just going to be silent and awkward the whole time? He really has nothing to say, huh? Okay, so in addition to being uncertain of his feelings for challengers, he's also unsure of his commentary.
Come here.
Wait, that did it for you? That worked? You mean I've been wasting my time trying to have normal conversations with girls for years? I could have just told them the real reason I watched Goofy movies so many times?
Okay, that is just a bizarre comparison to make. Tashi is interested in the energy between Art and Patrick, which is why she gets them all horned up for the game. She's not only interested because these two guys admitted that they jerked off in front of each other. The fact that you think this admission of sexual tension between these two friends is comparable to you getting a boner over a Goofy movie is very strange.
And so they all get on the bed, and this is, of course, the big three-way scene that was basically the entire advertisement campaign for this movie. Like, every trailer, every screenshot, everything was about Zendaya's gonna do the devil's tango with two of the most mid-looking dudes you've ever seen. Zendaya saw what Ariana Grande was getting up to, and she was like, cut me a slice of that cake. So the three-way scene is actually a big trick, because what actually happens is Tashi gets Art and Patrick to make out with each other, and that's it.
I'm going to bed.
What about your number?
Good night.
Tashi is trying to heat up the rivalry between these two friends. Her main goal in this scene was not to have sex with the two of them. It's why she spoke more provocatively about tennis being a relationship. And also, this scene is pretty erotic, even without the threesome happening.
At some point later in time, there's a little bit of a plot twist going on about all this. Yeah, so at some point in time, Patrick and Tashi did the devil's tango.
They're having sex. Just say sex. You're talking about a highly sexual movie. I get that you're trying to make jokes, but playing up this slang for a Luca Guadagnino movie just makes you sound ridiculously childish.
Now, one really important thing you need to know to fully understand the complicated nuances here is that there's a whole lot of man butt in this movie, just everywhere, all the time.
Gee, I wonder if there's a reason you see all these man butts throughout the movie. I also wonder if Alexo Squad will be able to figure out the reason why.
So about 3 dude butt scenes later, we skip ahead to college. Art and Tashi are going to Stanford together, like I said, and Patrick is doing his professional tour thing, so he and Tashi don't get to hang out very much.
He's not in love with you.
What makes you think I want someone to be in love with me?
Huh, yeah, silly me. What was I thinking? Such an idiot, am I right?
She's using them. She's teasing them with sexual allure for what she wants, which is tennis.
And Art, being such a good friend, also tries to do the same thing with Patrick when he comes to visit both of them at the school one day.
I've been doing the same thing.
I'm not doing anything.
It's fine. You know, this just makes it harder for me, right?
This dude's got a whole lot of something going on here, you know?
It's sexual tension. There's sexual tension between the two of them. And it seems pretty obvious with them getting real close and Patrick shoving a phallic food in his face.
You're playing percentage tennis.
Hey guys, I think maybe tennis might be a metaphor for the whole movie or something. What do you think?
It's kind of cute how Alex Mack here will keep pointing out how obvious and obnoxious it is that tennis is a metaphor in this movie, yet misses so much of the sexual dynamic going on amid tennis.
Now after this, Patrick goes to do a little hammer with Tashi, and for whatever reason, all she can talk about the whole time is tennis, because literally that's all she cares about. And so, long story short, what do you know? They have a big old fight and break up. You see, Patrick is getting kind of tired of Tashi's one-track mind. You know, kind of like how every other day Kelsey's like, all right, that's enough, Alex, I've had it. It's either me or the Space Jam DVDs. I can stop anytime I want. You don't get to judge me.
What is happening right now? I mean, I understand why he's doing this. He's trying to make his review sound more personal and funny, but this association is just surreal. It's like a deleted cutaway gag from Family Guy.
Now, perhaps because of this fight, or maybe it's just a coincidence, who knows? But later that day, Tashi has a big tennis match, and she ends up stepping kind of weird and completely snaps her knee. And just like that, her life is over. She never recovers completely. She can never play the same level she used to. Her tennis career, her dreams, everything is just gone. Well, at least she still has a positive attitude.
Haha, it's funny because she's mad that she can no longer physically participate in her passion sport and smashed her racket.
But still, she tries to pick herself back up and do what she can, which is at the very least she can coach and help other people play tennis. So, Patrick has now top-spun the ball over the net, and now the ball is in Art's court. Hey, do you get it? Zendaya's the tennis ball or something, probably. I don't know.
How can you go from saying that the metaphor within challengers is super obvious to then acting confused about what it represents?
So Tashi and Art end up spending more time together. You know what I'm saying?
129, 130. But I think with like a few adjustments, you get to 135.
Uh-oh, Tashi's turning into one of those guys now with her random advice no one asked for. Hey girl, I've never talked to you before. If you changed your hair and your clothes and got a completely different personality, I'd think you were way hotter. Is that a threat?
Okay, that is just a bizarre comparison to make.
I really want to kiss you right now.
Why you gotta say it like that? I really want to kiss you right now. Hold on, I gotta put down my jar full of toenails real quick.
I don't think that delivery sounded creepy. I did find your delivery more creepy than funny, though.
And so Art and Tashi end up like together. And also she becomes his new coach, so she can turn him into the tennis star that she should have been. Okay, so skipping ahead a little bit here, we're about 7 man butts in at this point. Tashi and Patrick end up running into each other at this tennis tournament thing in Atlanta 8 years ago from modern day. And of course they do the
Please, just say sex.
Patrick and Art have been vocally and silently fighting over Tashi for the last 13 years. Even after she marries Art and they have a daughter, things are never really stable or happy much at all. Like later in the movie, Art tells Tashi that he wants to retire from tennis. Because now that he has Tashi and his daughter, he's had a successful career, family's becoming more important to him than tennis.
If you don't win tomorrow, I'll leave you.
I don't know, guys. I'm starting to think this might not be a healthy relationship. That's the thing about this movie, though. Everyone just kind of sucks. Like, I'm not rooting for anyone here. I have to assume they were trying to make all the characters seem nuanced and layered and flawed or whatever. But, like, this movie's 2 hours of just the most unlikable people being unlikable. The whole time I was watching this movie, I was just hoping the ending would be they all get struck by lightning.
I hate this fucking take so much. I hate this criticism that a movie is bad because the characters are not likable or they don't always make the right call. Like, seriously, you didn't care about anybody? You didn't care about Art having his heart broken over being duped into a loveless marriage. You didn't care about Patrick being poor and alone after so much betrayal. You didn't care whether or not Art and Patrick would realize they love each other and that Tashi never really loved them beyond tennis. If you don't feel anything for characters like this, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Maybe go back to easy-to-read cartoons instead of tackling harder movies like this.
But okay, so as we turn the corner around the 12th or 13th man-butt scene, we're at the end of the movie. Art just told Tashi that he wants to retire, and she was like, ew? Ugh, a man being open and vulnerable? And so she sneaks out in the middle of the night to go spend time with Patrick.
This is like listening to a child describe a movie in a frantic manner. This isn't even funny. He's just making noises with his mouth at this point. I don't even know what that last noise was supposed to be. Was it a guitar riff? A spring meant to signify a boner? I don't even think the letters he chose matches the noise. Even when he's just recapping the movie, he's really fucking bad at this.
And so, just like the good old days, they argue and fight, and what do you know, they end up doing the...
At the rate he's going, I'm expecting the end of the review to just be him spitting and sputtering like the Tasmanian devil.
And so Art finally realizes that he's spent his whole tennis career really only playing and being as good as he can for the sake of Tashi. Tashi's the one who cares if he's good. Tashi's gonna leave him if he's not good enough, and probably go back to Patrick of all people, his ex-best friend. And that's been his entire motivation for like everything he's done. But this is the moment when he realizes that he never really had Tashi. She was just in his court for the moment.
Well, all right. He played dumb through most of his review, but I think he's starting to get this movie. Let's see if he can bring it home with the final scene.
So, going along with this extremely subtle tennis metaphor, Art and Patrick thought they were fighting over Tashi, as in she's the ball that they were hitting back and forth. But it's actually the ball that controls everything in the game. They have to go where the ball goes. They have to play according to how the ball moves and spins and bounces and whatever. Ultimately, the ball controls the players, and Tashi's the one who's been trying to bet on the winning horse by manipulating her way to whoever she thinks is the best player or has the dumbest hair or biggest Adam's apple. Because you see, actually, Tashi hates both of these guys. They get to play professional and they get all the sponsorship deals, their faces are on breakfast cereal boxes, they have their own action figures. Even though she feels like neither of them are as good as she's supposed to be. And like, no matter how good of a coach she thinks she is, she will always and forever be sitting off to the side. And so, once Art and Patrick realize this, everything else fades away, and they become friends again, because regardless of whomsoever wins this particular tennis match, the real winning move is not to play Tashi's game anymore. And weirdly enough, Tashi is really into this, because finally, she gets to watch some real gosh darn tennis. So, yeah. Huh.
Did you just skip over the entire homoeroticism coursing through this movie? Did you just tune out amid all the scenes of man-butt? The entire film has been building up to these two athletes realizing the one relationship they should have been in was staring them right in the face. The reason Tashi is so into this ending is not just because it's some good tennis. She views tennis as a relationship, and she's watching a relationship being rebuilt right before her very eyes on the tennis court. And that is exciting. But that's just how I felt. How did Alexander the Not-So-Great feel about this movie?
I don't even know if I like this movie or not, to be honest. I mean, it's an interesting idea, although it's like as heavy-handed with its symbolism as it could possibly be. Okay, so like it's about tennis, but actually not though.
Again, really weird that you picked up on the tennis metaphor, but not the blatant homoeroticism.
The music is also like so annoying. This might be one of the worst movie soundtracks I've heard in a long time. There's just this like constant techno music that randomly plays all the time. It's so weird.
Oh, fuck no. No, you did not just call a Trent Reznor Atticus Ross soundtrack terrible. That soundtrack fucking rocks, and I'm not going to tolerate that Reznor Ross slander.
But I mean, hey, it's an original idea, and I think overall it was executed pretty well. Like, this movie will speak to a very specific group of people, and if you're one of the people who's in that group, I hope you had fun.
Dude, are you incapable of saying you didn't like the movie? Just say it was bad. You just got done talking about how you didn't like the characters, that you found the use of tennis to be too on the nose, and that you think the soundtrack is awful. The most pathetic conclusion you could come to after all this is to say, well, some people will like it, and I hope they had fun. You keep saying you're not sure how you feel about the movie, but it sure seems like you didn't like it, and you certainly didn't seem to read any of the gay subtext, so maybe there's a reason you're confused about why there's so much man-butt and flirting between Art and Patrick. But, to be fair, the films of Luca Guadagnino are like the deep end of adult dramas. Going from reviewing Disney cartoons to reviewing Challengers is a massive jump, and I fully expected some stumbling from him. But maybe Extra Large Fries has improved since then. So let's take a look at how he handles the recent movie Obsession.
Warning, this video is an attempt at a good faith, nuanced look at the fictional movie Obsession and the characters therein, which will probably upset some of you for some reason.
Okay, I hate when YouTubers do this, when they preface their arguments by saying that it'll probably piss people off for reasons they do not list. So we're already off to a very bad start with this video.
You know, I don't think I've seen the internet freak out about a movie like they have with Obsession. At least not in a long time. Maybe K-pop Demon Hunters was the last time where like everywhere you looked, everyone had an opinion about it. I guess you could say everyone's kinda obsessed. So I knew I had to make a video about it.
Why? Why did you have to make a video about Obsession? Considering the last big movie you mentioned was K-pop Demon Hunters, this doesn't seem like the type of movie your audience would expect you to cover. Are you only covering this movie because it's popular? Because that doesn't sound like the best idea, especially after watching your Challengers review.
You're in every song I listen to.
Marching along as the song fills the air. Gummy bear.
So the whole review is just gonna be like this, huh?
So this is our main character, Bear. Bear is 25, according to the screenplay, and he's never outgrown his awkward high school loser persona, which means he's gonna have a great career one day as an online content creator. Hi there, welcome to Twitch. Are you mentally stuck at 15? Perfect, we're gonna put you on the front page.
I feel like I'm listening to the stand-up comedy of a perpetually online Dennis Miller. And no, that's not a compliment.
Pretend like...
You're good.
Oh my god, dude, that was so embarrassing.
I don't know, man. You got that strawberry milkshake sitting right there, so something tells me you're the kind of guy who's internalized a few too many rom-coms written by equally pathetic losers as yourself. I mean, trust me, ain't my first rodeo.
Okay, just... What?
Okay, so real talk, if you have to try this hard to have this kind of like game plan on how to ask a girl out, then like, it's already gonna fail, okay? If it's this hard, you've already lost.
Some people have a hard time asking people out, especially if the person they're asking out is a friend that they've known for years. Bear is right to be nervous and seek the best way to ask out Nikki. He fears that if he fails, Nikki won't just reject him as a boyfriend, but as a friend altogether. There's good reason for him to take caution, even if there were a more obvious spark of romance between the two.
Anyway, so that night, Bear goes home and finds his cat dead. Apparently it got into his grandma's medicine or whatever.
How did you get into these?
Little backstory. So Bear's living in his grandma's house who recently passed away. So, you know, it's full of all kinds of grandma stuff, like insanely racist paperweights. As you might imagine, Bear's got a lot on his mind. His cat died, he has no idea how to ask out Nikki, he's walking around with this haircut, like my dude can't catch a break.
I really don't like this recap style for this type of movie. Mind you, he goes into the backstory with the funny visuals and gags immediately after showing the clip of Bear discovering his dead cat.
So he's feeling pretty down, as you could imagine, but Nikki, of all people, calls him up to ask if he's gonna hang out with a friend group that night.
No, I just dropped my crystal necklace down the drain.
Oh, no, crystal necklace. Bear, get out while you still can. But then again, Nikki is a hot Latina, so one can only remain strong for so long.
Get better material, dude. This is awful.
Now, because Nikki dropped her necklace, Bear gets this idea to get her another one. You know, be the hero, get his foot in the door, and then have no idea what to do afterwards, like me 80% of the time.
What? Why did you What the fuck is wrong with you?
It does work, and it like ruins their lives.
Or they die or wish they were dead.
Ah, yes, the millennial special. Rather experienced myself. Also, you know, it's kind of funny that Bear is better at flirting with this girl here than he is with the girl he actually likes, which is such a real thing, by the way. Why does that happen?
No, seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? These jokes aren't funny or relatable. They're a mixture of the confusing and the concerning.
What?
I like a man who's in touch with his feminine.
Hey, whoa, didn't ask your opinion, Nikki. So here we get a look at who Nikki is. And she seems like she's kind of one of those girls who's like those like ball buster types, you know? She's always like, ha, bitch can't handle all this. I've never met a guy who can keep up with me. And then they just lay there like SpongeBob. Also, again, somewhat ironic, but earlier Bear was like, you want me to be mean to her? Why would I do that? But then she's literally doing the same thing to him right now, and it's clearly working, so, interesting.
She's just playfully mocking him. Why don't you calm down instead of overreacting and trying to wedge a D- joke into every scene?
So here we get a look into the dynamics of the whole friend group, okay? So Ian is kind of like a douche, right? Nikki seems like one of those girls who's one of the guys, you know? And Bear has a huge crush on Nikki, even though Sarah over here is clearly into Bear on some level, and he just like doesn't notice, doesn't care. So Bear's choices are Crystal Mommy or Septum Girl. So like, this dude never stood a chance. Like, you might as well put that chastity belt in your Amazon cart right now, my dude.
Dude, Bear and Sarah's relationship develops organically throughout the movie. It gets to a point where they actually kiss. Why do you think Bear wouldn't have a chance with her? And why do you refer to them as Crystal Mommy and Septum Girl? You know they have personalities beyond accessories, right? Because I don't think you do, based on how you drew these women in your sexy Pillsbury Doughboy art style.
Anyway, so trivia night's over and it's time to go home. Nikki needs a ride, and so of course Bear's like,
See you later, Bear. All right, Bear.
Yeah, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here.
Well, actually, I'm wondering why you thought that was a funny joke.
So Bear takes Nikki home, and of course on the way they have some kind of heart-to-heart talk, you know, talk about life, man. It's all very Life is Strange, you know what I'm saying? Come on, Max, let's get out of this town. I hate my dad.
I mean, it's just a job, Nikki.
Yeah, well, I want to write.
Oh, a Crystal Mommy and a writer. Well, something tells me this movie would have gone the same way for Bear, whether he made the wish or not.
I don't like the pattern that's emerging here.
It's not a romance, it's a love story.
Isn't that the same thing?
You know, you're the only person that I get to really talk to about this stuff.
Ah, yes. Well, see, Bear, when a girl says that, what she really means is, you better not ask me out and ruin this friendship.
Yes, but this exchange additionally stresses that Bear doesn't understand the foundation of a romantic relationship. You know, the fatal flaw that leads to him thoughtlessly making his wish.
Night, Freaky Nikki.
Ew, don't call me that.
I know, I was kidding.
Do you like me?
I think we're good friends.
My dude, she's leaving anyway. This is your chance. She says, do you like me? And then you say, what? Yes, I do. Also, apropos of nothing, I'm gonna get a haircut, so don't worry.
It's almost like Bear's nervous about ruining this friendship. I also find it really annoying when somebody criticizes a character for doing something that is very much in character. Bear doesn't take a swing at Nikki because he's a coward, because that's how he's written in this story.
I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the
Shrekin.
world.
Okay, so jokes aside, up until this point, Bear was just a dude with a crush on a girl that he was too scared to talk to. Okay, a story of my life. He pulls out this $7 wishing toy. He's like, golly gee, I sure wish Nikki loved me too. But here's where everything changes, okay?
Maybe you want to come inside? I mean, I did just lose my cat, Bear.
I mean, you lost your cat. I'm so sorry.
So as you can see, Nikki's starting to act a little out of character. She's saying things that don't make sense. She also demands to go over to his house to spend the night. And you know, to Bear's credit, he's not immediately jumping at the chance to take advantage of her or whatever. Like, he gives her privacy and space. He doesn't want to make it weird. He turns around when she takes her shirt off.
Wait, where are you going with this?
And like, based on what people were saying about this movie online, I expected Bear to be this like horribly angry, misogynistic incel dude, right? But like, up until this point, he's just some super socially awkward loser who has a crush on a girl, and he uses a $7 wishing toy that he assumes is not going to work. And then when Nikki starts acting like this, he's very confused and put off by it.
Wow, just... okay. All right, maybe this is because cartoons and rom-coms are a bit more overt in their characterizations, but like, you know you don't have to be cartoonishly angry and evil to be misogynistic, right? Even before realizing his wish came true, Bear doesn't view Nikki as a person. He only views her as something to attain. It's why he thoughtlessly wishes that Nikki would love him more than anybody else. He doesn't care about Nikki's feelings beyond whether or not she loves him. Bear doesn't end up in this scary scenario simply because he poorly worded his wish. His problem is that he viewed Nikki as a prize. That is why a lot of people don't have sympathy for Bear's confusion and plight, considering he did this to himself. It's what makes Obsession such a brilliant cautionary tale instead of just being a supernatural horror with spooky wishes.
Obviously, things get different later on, but at least up to this point, Bear has no idea that the wishing willow worked. And again, to his credit, the very next day he immediately tells Ian that he thinks something's wrong with Nikki. Like he seems genuinely concerned.
What, is she okay? No.
Now, I've seen a lot of people saying that this part is showing how Bear's trying to make Nikki seem crazy to other people or whatever, but again, he has no way of knowing that the toy works. Why would he think it did? You know what I'm saying? It was $7. In any other circumstance, you'd probably do the same thing if your friends started acting like this out of nowhere, right?
Again, it doesn't matter that he comes to this realization, given how he previously viewed Nikki. He made a thoughtless, selfish wish that robbed Nikki of her agency and consent in the relationship. Bear made Nikki look and sound crazy by wishing for a different version of her. It's why this scene makes Bear look terrible, because he's describing to others a version of Nikki that she wasn't before. So it doesn't matter how oblivious that Bear is about wish mechanics. The problem is not the wish. The problem is him.
Anyway, so that night, Ian apparently talked to Nikki, and she said that she was on some drugs or whatever, and so maybe that explains why she was acting so erratic, like when she and Bear kissed earlier. So at this point, Bear thinks that Nikki was acting weird, kissed him, freaked out, etc. because she was on drugs, right? So again, to him, in this moment, it all seems totally above board.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It doesn't sound above board to be making out with somebody who is no longer in control of their own body or decisions, especially when they're struggling to regain control of their actions and failing. So no, this isn't fine just because Bear was ignorant of whether or not his wish worked.
You took advantage of me.
I don't think I didn't.
I know, that's why I'm saying you didn't.
Okay, see, this is my point. Given the circumstances, Bear's being pretty normal about this, okay? Given what he does and does not know by this point in the movie, he could have slept with her, or he could have taken some kind of advantage of her, but he was rather gentlemanly at the time. I mean, for a guy who has this many Cosby sweaters. Wait, do you think this was on purpose? Do you think they dressed him like this intentionally?
Wow, wow. We got some jokes about the rapist Bill Cosby in a video running defense for a man who took away the consent of a woman. That was certainly a choice made by Alex Meyers.
And thus begins their relationship. They start dating, hanging out, kissing, doing the devil's tango. And Bear's finally living the life he always wanted. Hot dog. Turns out Nikki was in love with him the whole time.
But she's not. The devil's tango you pointed out with a silly voice is not being performed with the real Nikki. She did not consent to having sex with him. This is Bear, taking advantage of her. The thing you argued he wasn't doing because he's ignorant.
Call me a closed book.
Well, I guess the good thing about a closed book is
that I can return it to the Scholastic Book Fair and exchange it for the new Animorphs book. Maybe this is the one where things finally start making sense. No, it still doesn't.
What? What even are these jokes? They don't engage with the movie, and their inclusion isn't clever. He's just throwing in unrelated references to stuff like Gummy Bears, Animorphs, and the Scholastic Book Fair. Alexa Foley, would you rather be reviewing Gummy Bears and Animorphs instead of Obsession? It's fine if you do. In fact, I'd prefer it. If you have more to say about those pieces of media, maybe you should review that instead of movies that you clearly don't understand.
Now, suddenly Bear gets a phone call from Ian. See, remember when Nikki told Bear that her dad was sick or whatever? And Bear told that to Ian, and apparently Ian looked into this because as far as Ian knew, Nikki hated her dad and hasn't seen or talked to him in years.
I looked into Nikki's dad having cancer, and he's healthy as a baby.
The heck does that mean? My dude, babies just have constant projectile vomit and diarrhea. The heck you talking about?
Oh, calm down. Ian is saying that Nikki's dad isn't that close to death, hence the highlighting of a younger age.
Also, how exactly would you find this out? Pretty sure you can't just call up a hospital and they tell you someone's medical history. Okay, so is Ian lying about this? Or was Nikki lying to Ian and Sarah about her dad this whole time?
He probably just, talked to people who knew Nikki's father, and they said he was fine. Why does this matter?
No, don't do that!
Okay, see, Bear, I don't know why you're making this face. You wanted the Crystal Mommy Latina experience, and you got the Crystal Mommy Latina experience.
Holy fuck. Like, you know, you don't have to make a joke about every scene in the movie, especially since you're really, really bad at writing them. Because your little jab at Nikki being a crazy Crystal Latina mommy for one of the best scenes in the movie was embarrassingly awful, laced with racism and sexism.
Now, okay, up to this point, I feel like Bear has plausible deniability.
Oh, dude, no, don't do this.
I mean, there's no way he would have known the cheap toy would work. He was genuinely concerned for Nikki the day after it started, and he refused to take advantage of her even when it was, like, presented to him, right? I mean, she kissed him after all, right?
Fucking hell, dude. Are you listening to yourself? She kissed him? You mean the version of Nikki that wasn't Nikki? Do you think it's fine to have sex with a woman who is drunk or drugged because she kissed you first? This is a really bad defense of Bear, dude.
Right here, though, at the halfway point of the movie, he does finally start to realize that the wish actually worked. But like even then, like literally every rom-com is about trying to find a way to get the other person to like you, or you manufacture a meet cute or whatever, right?
This isn't a rom-com. Why are you judging this supernatural horror movie by the standards of a rom-com?
Like I've seen some internet comment threads where it's like, he only saw her as an object and wanted to remove her autonomy. That's why he made that wish. But like he didn't wish that she would do whatever he wanted, or I wish that she would become obsessed with me and me only. He specifically wished that Nikki would love him more than anyone, which is literally what everyone who has ever had a crush wants.
First off, Bear did take away her autonomy, and it doesn't matter if he didn't realize the novelty item grants wishes. But secondly, when some people act on their crushes without considering the feelings of the other party, they can do some very creepy shit, which is kind of the point of the movie. That having a crush without seeing the person you're in love with as a person is damaging.
Like every single fanfic about like, golly gee, I sure wish One Direction would kidnap me and fall in love with me all at the same time. Like as if half the girls who saw this movie haven't wished the exact same thing before.
And it would still be wrong if the genders were swapped.
Like, you have to look at the context, okay? If Bear had gone to the store specifically and been like, hey, do you have something that'll force a girl to fall in love with me? Or if he, like, searched on the internet for some kind of, like, weird ritual that's gonna make anyone fall in love with you, then yeah, that's some funky, funky stuff, man. Or, like, later on, we find out that maybe Ian and Nikki have been hooking up, right? But Bear doesn't learn this until the very end of the movie. So, like, for example, if he'd found this out at the beginning of the movie and he was like, oh, so Nikki's just some slut that bangs every guy except me, huh? Well, I'll show you. Then yeah, he'd be like some misogynistic incel.
Are you seriously arguing that Bear has to overtly declare he's going to take away Nikki's consent for you to buy him being in the wrong here?
But for at least half of the movie, he has no idea that this would work, and in fact, he's concerned for Nikki when she does change. To me, at least, it totally seems like a fanfic or whatever that he thinks would have no way of actually coming true. I'm not saying Bear is a blameless, innocent victim, okay? But I think some of you are a little too quick to attach motivation and subtext to this character that is not based on the movie. Like, it really seems like some of you want him to be a horrible, incel, intentionally malicious guy, regardless of what actually happens in the movie.
Bear's wish is selfish because he's only thinking of himself. He only views Nikki as someone to win, not as a person. He should not have slept with Nikki after everything that follows the wish because that's not Nikki. Bear's ignorance does not excuse him for what he wished upon Nikki. His ignorance actually makes him worse as he continues to go along with this removal of agency despite how much harm it causes Nikki and himself.
Like, are you all equally upset about the Disney Channel original movie Zapped or 16 Wishes? Because fundamentally, these are all the same movie. Like, remember Descendants 1, Mal cast a spell that made Ben fall in love with her?
No. I don't know that because I don't watch Disney Channel TV movies from the 2010s aimed at teenagers. Maybe if you explain the story of these movies, I might be able to see your point. But you don't. And since you don't explain why these movies are similar, I'm going to assume the only similarity they share is that they feature magical wishes that manipulate people.
You know, I made a video years ago about the show WandaVision, and everyone got so mad at me when I said it's crazy that we're supposed to be so understanding about how Wanda enslaves an entire town and uses magic to force her husband to stay with her and have kids with her. Huh, isn't that interesting?
Bear and Wanda are going through far different situations. Wanda is processing grief while Bear wants a girlfriend. In this regard, Wanda's motivations are far more sympathetic than Bear's desire to go steady. This is a terrible comparison.
I found this comment in a Reddit thread that puts it so perfectly, so I'm just gonna read part of it. But remember, this sub attracts the most obsessed fans of the movie. They flex about watching it at the theater like 10 times already. They make several posts a day about it. They make crazy over-analysis and theories that have no ground in the reality of the film, etc. It's not just a movie for them. They're incredibly emotionally invested and attached to an unhealthy degree. It's almost cultish at this point. And people who are chronically online or addicted to a piece of media aren't the most emotionally stable or media literate to begin with. So a lot of it comes from an emotional standpoint, hence the refusal to engage with the material in good faith and just making it say what they want the movie to say in an over-the-top, sanctimonious, dogmatic way. It's like a ritual for them, a catharsis. See also Encanto.
Who gives a shit about a subreddit? There are plenty of fandoms that have weirdo fans. Are you going to judge every piece of media based on how Reddit reacts?
So the movie goes on. Nikki gets more and more insane. She walks around like this. She cooks up his dead cat and feeds it to him. She waits for him to come home so long that she pees herself. And what we come to find out is that the real Nikki is trapped inside of this demon Nikki. And every so often she gets to come out for just like a brief second, which is why Nikki seems to be acting the way she does. It's like the more the real Nikki tries to break free, the more the demon has to overcorrect.
Yeah, almost like Nikki's ability to control her body was taken away and that Bear was having sex with her without her consent. You know, taking advantage of her.
Now, just to be clear, I'm not defending all of Bear's actions, okay? Because at this point in the movie, he knows the wish worked, and he knows the real Nikki's soul is like trapped or whatever, but he keeps on dating her and tries to like continue on as if this isn't the most horrible situation anyone could imagine.
Yeah, Bear figures out the wish, but the audience clearly knew that Nikki was being manipulated by the wish. Everything about the way Nikki is framed runs counter to her character established prior, and it's very obvious Bear shouldn't be in this relationship.
Although, to be fair, what is he supposed to do? Because if he breaks up with her, she's gonna hunt him down. And the only other choice, as we learn, is that the spell will break if he dies.
I don't know, maybe he shouldn't have made the wish in the first place. Maybe if he wasn't trying too hard to force Nikki to like him, he wouldn't have ended up in this situation. Maybe he should have just been more thoughtful from the start.
Another option appears when the real Nikki is able to speak very briefly while the demon Nikki is asleep. Now, this is another part I've seen so many posts about that I find so baffling. Like, I've literally seen people say, like, if Bear truly loved Nikki, he would have killed her when she asked. Cause, like, it's just that easy, you know? And then what? He goes to prison for life? Obviously, he doesn't want to do that.
It is entirely Bear's fault that Nikki has no control over her body. She begs Bear to kill her because she doesn't want to continue suffering. And if he really cared about Nikki, the actual Nikki, and not the phony version he wished for, he would release her instead of just thinking of himself.
His reaction to this is very telling, though.
What's so bad about being with me?
Okay, Bear, see, I was trying to be fair, okay? And then you go and you say that. like, maybe everyone's right about you, you know?
Yeah, wow, it's almost like Bear was only thinking of himself this entire time and that his actions weren't justified and that his ignorance isn't a good defense for them.
People are saying, you know, if he truly loved Nikki, then he would do this incredibly selfless thing for her. But remember, his wish was not that Nikki would become obsessed with him. He wished that she would love him. So why isn't her love for him as selfless as you're claiming that his love for her should be? You know what I'm saying?
Because Bear fucked up and should own up to his mistake. Also, Bear's specific wish was not just that Nikki would love him, but love him more than anybody in the world, which means she has no love for anybody else, which is why this version of Nikki becomes aggressively defensive and does horrible shit like serve dead cat for lunch. Nikki is not asking for Bear to be as loving as the wished version of herself. She's asking him to have mercy and understand that if he truly loves Nikki, he won't keep her in this state.
I'm not saying Nikki's the bad guy or Bear is some like blameless victim or whatever. I'm just saying there's many ways you could look at this movie. Like maybe the wish didn't work at all. Maybe Bear's just that cool. You ever thought of that?
No, I didn't think that because it's fucking stupid and doesn't match up with what the movie presents.
But anyway, so the very end of the movie, Nikki has killed Sarah and Ian. Bear realizes that there's no way out of this unless he dies. So he eats all the rest of his grandma's Flintstone vitamins, I assume, and dies in the arms of Nikki, who is finally freed from the spell. And that's more or less the end of the movie.
That's it? That's all you've got to say about Nikki being released and feeling horrible after what she's been put through? No comments on that? Like, not even a joke like, yeah, I hear that, sister. I'd be a crying mess too if my significant other forced me to love him with a fucked up wish like that. You know, it's very telling how much time you spend talking about Bear in this movie and not Nikki. And it's not exactly painting a pretty picture here.
Yeah, so whatever your personal interpretation of the movie is, it really is a fantastic film. It's a great horror, great writing, the acting is incredible. Nikki, obviously, fantastic job. But like with a lot of other movies and shows, especially recently, the online discourse is just insane.
Please, just get offline. Go out to the theater and interact with people.
Now again, I need to be very clear here, okay? Ultimately, Bear is the bad guy. He doesn't know what he did until late in the movie, but when he figures it out, he just keeps on rationalizing to himself because, like, he wants Nikki, and he doesn't seem to really care that she's being tortured the whole time, but rather he wants the demon to just act like Nikki so that he can pretend that he's actually dating Nikki, you know? Like, this is a bad dude. Yes, absolutely. Nikki is completely innocent. Her life is forever ruined because of some depressed, selfish loser guy, okay? Yes, like that's the outcome of the movie. But how we get to that point, I think, is a lot more nuanced than a lot of you were giving the movie credit for.
So, Bear is the bad guy, but you shouldn't dislike him that much because he didn't know what he was doing. Again, not a good defense, and you really didn't argue any of the nuances you claimed this movie had. It's rather rich you declare there are annoying people online who are not looking at this movie with context and nuance, when you proceed to judge the movie without context or nuance, especially considering how you wrote off Bear having sex with a non-consensual Nikki as the devil's tango in a silly voice. For fuck's sake, Berlin Alexanderplatz, this is not a movie where your silly sex jokes are going to play well. Okay, so this is one of the worst reviews of Obsession I've ever seen, but I don't think Alex is speaking in bad faith or just some grifter trying to poison movie discourse for his own financial gain. I believe he was being honest in his review, but that honesty revealed a rather troubled perspective. Now, he can claim he doesn't hate women and that he doesn't support rape all he wants. In fact, he did so in a rather hollow apology video that he made in regard to this review. But that doesn't excuse what came across in the review itself. In Alex's apology video, he notes that his channel is built to make jokes while reviewing movies. And while that format might be well suited for family-targeted cartoons and light rom-coms that he's experienced with, it's not going to work for every movie. I can't imagine Alex applying this fast-paced, cartoony comedy routine to movies like The Zone of Interest or Antichrist. And while I do encourage people to watch more movies to broaden their media diet, I don't think Alex is ready to discuss a film like Obsession. He pretty much admits in his review that he only covered this movie because it was popular and everybody was talking about it. But just because everybody is talking about a movie doesn't mean you need to talk about it, especially if you're far more familiar with cartoons and rom-coms than horror. So you might want to watch a few more horror movies to get some context instead of retreating to Disney Channel TV movies as references that are honestly more baffling than amusing. Alex has a massive platform, and it's really sad to see him use it for such coverage. Everything from the clickbait titles to the surface-level observations to the manic animations to the lackluster jokes is all just junk. Alex's commentary isn't funny or insightful, and he communicates some rather concerning views on women. This is not a problem that can be fixed by Alex watching more movies. This is a problem with his personality that he'll have to resolve on his own. And sincerely, I hope he can do it, and find a way to better himself and improve how he discusses movies. Because otherwise, we're going to end up with obnoxiously awful videos like this. Warning, this is an honest review that will probably make people mad for reasons I don't care to look into. Hey guys, I heard some people telling me about this movie called The Zone of Interest. And I was like, you talking about the Disney Channel, Netflix, and cartoons? Because that's my zone of interest, baby. And they were like, no, it's a German movie that won some awards or something. Now, I don't normally watch foreign movies with subtitles because they're all stuffy, pretentious, like, ooh, look at me, I'm French, I'm black and white, watch me eat cheese and drink wine. And then I heard the movie was about a family and finding a work-life balance. And I enjoy some wholesome family fun, so yeah, let's get into it. Let's take a walk, folks. So the movie starts in Auschwitz. And anybody who has read Zootopia fanfiction can relate to that, so you know what I'm saying. And you just know if the Disney Channel are around, these kids will be watching That's So Raven and not playing out in the garden. Now, in all fairness to the wife, she didn't really know what her husband was doing at work. I mean, how could she with that giant wall there? She probably thought he was making hot dogs or something. And then they do the Devil's Tango, and then there's this. So yeah, that's the movie, and I'm not sure how I feel about this one. It's a well-made movie for sure, and there's a lot of ways that you could interpret it. And I don't think the German family was as bad as everybody online was saying. Sure, they're supporting the Nazis, but most of the family had no clue what they were doing. I mean, based on what everybody was saying, I was expecting some Indiana Jones Nazi waving flags and opening the Ark of the Covenant. But no, they were just like a regular family that does regular family stuff, you know? So it's not so black and white, you know? You gotta look at a movie with context and nuance, you know?